Hey, what's good, y'all? The Convo Kings are in today again. First of all, I do want to start off with fuck Jennifer Aniston. Friends isn't funny. Now on to the main point. Um, Kai Cenat, the Amp House conversation. Um, Kai was in the media recently for his little giveaway. Um, Why don't you take over, Smurfy? Because you had some good points earlier, and I think that we should try to start there.
Yeah, so
And fuck
kind of
Jennifer
give a
Anderson.
background.
Okay, yeah, go
Okay.
ahead. Go ahead.
All right, just to give context on my point of view and where I'm coming from, I think of it as social media is big and impressing on putting impressions on the younger audience is very important. As I've worked in sports and have a growing understanding of the reason a lot of like your Disney's and your sports teams and a lot of really just anything that people consume, they have like these youth type programs or like promotions. It's because if you make a fan of somebody while they're young, more than likely they will be a fan 20, 30 years from now, giving money to you in some form or way, or giving you basically you're increasing your brand in that same context. And the reason why I am bringing this up is because of and I just give you an idea, an example. Look at Disney. I mean, you have people like you've seen the videos of like 40-year-old men and women that are fully grown, like grown ass men and women. I don't fault them. I mean, it's their thing that they like. They cry and they get emotional when they go to Disney World. And sometimes it's not even the first time they've been. They've been there multiple times, and they're still like that fired about it. Because like at a young age, Disney has done a great job in putting impressions and giving them life, like giving their childhood full of great moments and things like that. Same thing with sports teams in their youth programs, where they get to meet players, etc. So why this matters with the Kai Cenat thing and Aiden Ross and like their kind of generation of streamers and I guess e-celebrities is probably the best way to put it too at this point. Maybe I guess you can call them celebrities, but they're from the internet really. But their audiences are they're young, but their audiences are way even younger than they are in most cases. Like I seem like a large chunk, so they're very impressionable. So it's crazy to me so their influence matters a lot. That's why streaming platforms like Kick, for example, was throwing so much money at Aiden Ross, and why they try to get Kai as well because they know that their audiences are really young. I mean, you also have again, and then that they can basically, if they start watching Kick early on, more than likely, 10 years from now, it will give Kick that constant revenue stream of young fans versus on Twitch. Because what they'll only know will be Kick essentially. So I think that was also why you had the controversy with the gambling side things. One, it was already a known thing that like CS:GO and like at one point like Halo 5 and a couple other games were doing loot boxes, and people were spending crazy amounts of money while they were young because there is a certain high that comes with gambling, and when you're younger and you don't understand the concept of money or dollars, and you have money or your parents' card allows you to do this and spend, it's very easy for a kid to spend hundreds and thousands of dollars on their favorite streamer or on their favorite game. Hence, again, the whole controversy around Kick and the gambling thing that they were promoting, quote unquote, that they quote unquote were not promoting. So, and then that's where you can kind of see the fandoms that they are impressing upon because you look at the Kai Cenat like riot thing. Well, I don't think Kai's intention was to create this riot and create such a bad publicity stunt. He just did not think anything through and did not. I don't think he realizes how famous and popular he is, and to what lengths these young fans will go to show their fandom and support for him. And that's what was happened is that he just did doing a simple giveaway. One shouldn't have done it in the middle of New York City. I don't know what he was thinking. One of the most
Yeah.
populated cities in the world, and you did it in New York. That makes no sense for security reasons. He didn't have also two. He didn't have anything planned out either. That's like a concert not having any like I think it's like I forget the actual like legal term for it, but you have to have like city, like I think it's like city sanctions or something like that to be able to host an event like that of that size. And you probably thought, oh, it'll probably be maybe a couple hundred people. No, that was probably a couple thousand that showed up, and that's basically a concert level there. Not to mention, he was giving away only a handful, if any. I don't know if he was giving up just one PS5 or multiple. I didn't look into that part. But no matter what, that ratio is not nearly close enough to what the amount of people that were there. And then you had not only like young audiences that don't know how to act that were there, so those few bad apples made everybody else that was just there to either meet Kai or maybe get the PS5, made them all out to look bad, and you cause a whole lot right because they want to be with what everybody else is doing. Because again, these young audiences are so impressionable. That's why you had a kid that just randomly just got out of a car and broke a windshield, and everyone else like starts like beating up on the car and doing other kinds of crazy stuff because they don't know how to act better. But they see the small part of Kai's audience doing it, and they your mind is that, well, these are technically your group of people that you identify with because it's the same person you guys watch. You'll probably be in the same streams, maybe even the same groups like on Discord. So you're gonna join in. I mean, it's that group it's a group thing because what the technical term is where someone believes one point in your group, and usually that means leads to either you link with that person because they're like-minded, or your viewpoint becomes part of that one group, and that's what caused that because that was ridiculous. And like again, I don't think Kai it was his intention for that to happen, but he should have thought about it and planned it out better. It was just him being dumb, really. But then there's like intentional abuse of fame and knowing, and that's I think with like people like Aiden Ross and then them like pushing like viewpoints on young audiences through their streams, as well as like gambling type games, like games that like CS:GO boxes should not be allowed to be on there. It's a bad idea for people to be on there, to be putting crazy amounts of money on CS:GO loot boxes because it's such a rare occurrence. And then games like also like what's another? There's another game I'm forgetting, but only one I can think of an old one. I would say like Call of Duty Advanced Warfare's loot box system too, or something similar to that. The people that are streaming pack openings like that, or even you can argue even MUT, when people just stream pack openings, solely pack openings. It's another one of those things that I'm like, should that be allowed for young consumers to be watching? Especially when you know your audience is a large amount of young consumers, you're creating a potential issue with gambling, and that's one of the biggest issues. Like currently, is that gambling addiction is one of the worst ones you can have. It puts people in a really bad spot financially, and maybe it will change your life. It won't just maybe change your life; it could change your life easily. So that's just my viewpoint on it, and like I've been thinking about it for a couple of days on it, but again, Kai, to me, again, his whole thing was out of not his. It was more on him in poor planning and not thinking. But there's other people I think that intentionally do this because they know their audiences are young, to get them to great reaction, publicity, and to essentially increase their likely chances of these young audience members continuing with whatever their streaming platform is or with their own brand.
Yeah, but you actually hit a couple good points, and I actually do want to highlight some ones that I actually didn't really think about, with like the gambling and like the pack openings and like that type of stuff. Gambling, again, just like you said, is probably like one of the worst like addictions like to have. I feel like it is easy to lose your money, and it is easy to get like consumed, and you win some, and then once you start winning, we all have been to the casino, and we all have started winning, and then we think we can double that, and it's easy to get sucked in, especially with these young kids who your age group of like your fans by now. I think everybody, to a certain extent, once you get a certain amount of subscribers, you know what type of subs that you do have, and we all know this. They should know this by now. You have, I hate to say this, but you have an obligation once you get to a certain amount of subscribers and followers, to fix that. Like, these kids can't gamble. They shouldn't be gambling because they all know it is not legal. But you keep on like promoting it will show that these kids will continue. Think it's fine to do, and that there is no consequences like behind it. We saw that kid. I don't know if you guys did see the see that picture of the kid who got his head slammed into the window by a police officer. You know, I think that police officers are trash. I think that whole situation was awful. I feel bad for the kid. I do think that because he was a kid and because of this whole horrible situation that Kai did create, because he didn't let anyone know, because he only had 4 or 5 systems like to give away, that caused a whole lot more uproar and stress for the people there. And I think that just, you can't put 600 billion kids in one area and expect stuff like to not go crazy. And I do want to pinpoint what you said about him maybe not knowing how big that he is. And I think that's just pretty much what it is. He has no idea that he is this huge figure with a lot of pull, and he just fucked up. And it's fucked up that he is going to have to learn this lesson now. I think he is going to get in some sort of trouble, possibly some fines. Hopefully that's it. I don't like to see a successful men, women, people get into trouble like for no reason. I think this could have all been easily avoided. But I also need to understand what was the plan from his team. Did his team also help with the setup at all, or was this all just Kai? Because in my eyes, I feel like if I am this huge streamer, if I have all this pull, if I am this really important guy, I would have like my team do a lot of that extra stuff, like make sure I can have this giveaway and not have any issues. Make sure that everyone is safe while doing this, because it does look like that there was some kids who were like passing out, and I saw Kai helping out those kids. I'm not sure how true or how false like that is. He seems like a good dude, but you never know nowadays. Shout out to Lizzo, but you know, I just think that's just a interesting conversation. And that group, the Kai, the Bruce, the Aiden Ross, which I don't like him at all. I feel like he's just a troublemaker and will ruin Kick at some point. Ruin Kick at some point. Vegas, what do you think? Just in general, is there anything that you would like to add, or is there something that you think that we glossed over or skipped?
I mean, you guys pretty much said everything. I mean, the whole reason why Kai's in trouble is because he's not taking consideration of the people around him, and he thinks that he can just start this whole event and not think about like his audience as well. And I think this is just a general thing that most people can't grasp, is their own fans and how crazy they can be. So obviously when Kai went out there, he didn't think that, he thought he can just be like, hey guys, all right, we're gonna do this giveaway, it's all gonna be nicely handled, little process A to B. And it's like, nah, it's like, and honestly I think this is the whole thing with like Kai, Bruce, and the whole Aiden crowd, is that they don't really care about anything that goes on. They just kind of think that whatever happens, and then if anything happens that's bad, they just think about it after the fact. They just go with the flow. They care about content, and that's what their goal is. If they see a chance to make content, they'll just make the content without thinking about the consequences till after the fact. So I'm not surprised any of this happened. This is a learning experience for Kai. And honestly, it's still amazing to me that even after him growing this much, he didn't think about this was going to happen. Makes me question the people around him, because no one stopped him. No one said, hey, this might be a bad idea. They just let it happen, probably because they thought it could be content, and that they got the content to a point where they were now on national news, and then they're now getting charged for something. So again, they probably don't care, they're probably just gonna be like, God dang, that was lit, man. That was lit. And then they're just gonna go on with their everyday lives and create more content. So I won't be surprised if something else happens in the future that's crazy. Until the point where they are banned from something, till they get banned, is when they'll finally realize like, hey, we gotta chill out. So, but you guys pretty much hit the nail on what's been happening with all this. So,
and just real quick, that was an excellent point about maybe it's time for you to reevaluate who's on your team and who isn't on your team. You know, like for those of you who don't know, we are all cousins. I've known obviously, like I've known them like forever, and we're pretty close. We don't have like the same personality, but we somewhat understand each other and knows what we do like and what we don't like. Sometimes they can say things that are exactly what I am thinking, and that sort of helps out on that side. And I think it really does show when shit hits the fan, who is there to guide you in the right spot or who is really trying to break you down. And I think that I think that a lot of the Kick people need to make some heavy looks and some heavy adjustments if they are going to continue to be these big platform guys, because these are millionaires that we're talking about, multi-millionaires that we are talking about, who are probably 20, 21, 22. They probably don't understand consequences all the way, which, you know, I'm not going to say that is okay. I think that they should at this point understand what they are doing, but I also feel like I am in a position where I have, again, been around people who have some sense, so it's like hard for me to fathom that you have all these subscribers. You were, if not the one of or the most followed person on a platform. You should know that you're gonna have hella people coming to this thing. You should know. That just seems like common sense to me. So, but in closing, Smurfy, what do you have?
Yeah, again, I want to re-stress how really good point that Vegas had about the people around you. And it's like you can be one of the nicest, most genuine people in the world, but if the people around you aren't on that same level and they don't really care about your well-being, essentially, then it's not gonna it's gonna make you look out to be a bad guy. Because again, Kai seems like a really good guy. Seems like he's just there to enjoy life, but he has no one in his corner that's giving him, I think, great advice. Because I mean, it would just take someone with like half the brain capacity to realize that this would be a big mistake. Have in the middle of New York, with all these people for one of the most sought after consoles right now, and like one that's still behind on production. So it makes no sense to me that someone was like, oh yeah, it'd be a great idea in New York. I mean, you could have done this in like in Idaho. Maybe then that's fine. I mean, there's no one in Idaho or like Middle Montana or something.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like the Friar Festival thing.
But it wouldn't have been content. That's the thing. It would not have been content.
Very
it
true.
Have been crazy.
And that's their number one concern. That's the number one concern. They don't care about anything else. They just care about like what's going to be great content. And they probably thought along the lines of like maybe like a small concert type deal where it's like everyone's fired up and everyone's picking their boundaries of the city and stuff like that. But no, that's not how that works. That's not how that works. There's no security there. There's no barriers to protect anybody or anything. And it's insane to me. Honestly, it boggles my mind that someone with this much money can be this kind of just inconsiderate. It's honestly insane. But I do wish and hope he kind of can learn from this and maybe reevaluate that, because he could have done this in a multitude of different ways. Especially with it being an internet sensation, he could have done this on the internet or done something maybe where it's like you get like a raffle or something, and he'll probably pick like a couple hundred people that will show up to an event, maybe. I don't know. Or tickets, maybe even you could sell if you want to make additional revenue. I don't care. It doesn't matter. There's so many other ways you could have done it, and it blows me away again thinking about this every single time I see it on Twitter.
Yeah, I think it's a very crazy situation, and I feel like it could have easily, like just like you said, it could have easily been a raffle event or a certain amount of people that can only come or something like that. I feel like they, just like what you said, Vegas, content, COE, content over everything. And for some reason, people actually live by that and think that is a valid way of living. And they've made a living off of that so far, but I'm sure that we all have had stories or seen stories of people realizing that that's not really what it is. And I just hope that they can figure it out sooner rather than later, because I do want to see them like succeed, especially Kai. Kai seems to be like a pretty good guy. I actually hate Aiden Ross, so fuck that nigga. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. I'll see y'all later. Peace.